Imagine a company that once defined the future. A company so powerful that its slogan wasn't just a marketing tagline, it was a seal of quality stamped on nearly every computer on the planet. For decades, if you didn't have Intel inside, you didn't have a computer. They were the king of Silicon Valley, the standard bearer of American innovation, and a seemingly unstoppable monopoly. But today, that same company is fighting for its life. The giant has fallen. We aren't just talking about a bad quarter or a dip in stock price. We are talking about an existential collapse. In the early 2000s, Intel was worth more than nearly any other tech company on Earth. Today, their market cap has been shattered. They have been eclipsed by competitors they once dismissed as irrelevant. They missed the two biggest technological shifts of the 21st century: mobile and artificial intelligence, and now the vultures are circling. This is the story of how a $500 billion empire crumbled from the inside out, not because of a lack of talent, but because of a catastrophic failure of imagination. It didn't happen overnight. The cracks started forming years ago, in a meeting room that would change the course of history. The year was 2005. Steve Jobs approached Intel's then CEO, Paul Otellini, with a secret project. Apple was building a new device, a phone that functioned like a computer. Jobs wanted Intel to build the processor for this device, the iPhone. But there was a catch. Apple demanded a specific price per chip, a price that was brutally low. Otellini looked at the spreadsheets. He looked at his forecasts, and he said no. He reasoned that the volume, the number of phones Apple would sell, would never be high enough to make up for the low profit margin. He thought, it's just a phone. How many can they possibly sell? That decision is arguably the single most expensive mistake in corporate history. Intel passed on the iPhone, opening the door for a competitor called ARM. Today, ARM designs the architecture for essentially every smartphone on the planet, while Intel has zero presence in the mobile world. They walked away from the most important device of the modern era because a spreadsheet said the margins weren't good enough. But if missing the iPhone was a tragedy, missing the AI revolution was a farce. Fast forward to 2017. Intel had another golden ticket dropped right into their lap. A small, non-profit research lab called OpenAI was looking for investors. They offered Intel a 15% stake in their company for $1 billion. For a giant like Intel, $1 billion was pocket change. It was a rounding error. But Intel's leadership, including then CEO Bob Swan, reportedly hesitated. They didn't see the immediate value. They thought generative AI, the technology behind ChatGPT, was years, maybe decades away from being a consumer product. They passed. They kept their $1 billion, and they let the opportunity slide. Today, that stake would be worth tens of billions, but more importantly, it would have given Intel a front row seat to the AI boom. Instead, OpenAI turned to Microsoft, and the hardware that powers the AI revolution isn't coming from Intel factories. It's coming from the company Intel used to laugh at. For years, Intel looked at Nvidia as a nuisance. Nvidia was the gaming card company. They made graphics chips for video games. Intel made the brains of the computer, the CPU. They didn't see Nvidia as a threat because they didn't understand what Nvidia was actually building. While Intel was focused on protecting its monopoly in PC and server chips, Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang was betting the farm on something called CUDA, a software platform that allowed graphics chips to do complex calculations. It was a massive gamble, but when the AI wave hit, it turned out that those gaming chips were the only hardware capable of training modern AI models. Suddenly, every tech company in the world, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, was desperate for Nvidia chips. Intel had nothing to offer. They had spent years optimizing for a world that was disappearing, while Nvidia was building the engine for the world that was coming. The result? Nvidia is now a multi-trillion-dollar juggernaut, the most valuable company in the world at times, while Intel is being dropped from the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You might wonder, but Intel still makes chips, right? They still have factories. This is where the story gets even darker. Intel's core advantage was always its manufacturing. They were the only US company that designed and built its own cutting-edge chips. They called it the tick-tock model. Every 2 years, they would shrink their transistors, making chips faster and more efficient. They were like a clockwork machine, until the machine broke. Around 2015, Intel hit a wall. They tried to move to a new manufacturing process, the 10-nanometer node, and they failed. They failed for years. While they were stuck fixing their factories, a Taiwanese company called TSMC zoomed past them. TSMC didn't design chips, they just built them for other people. And they got really, really good at it. Suddenly, Apple, AMD, and Nvidia could get better chips than Intel just by hiring TSMC to build them. Intel's one true superpower, its manufacturing dominance, was gone. They went from being the leader to being a generation behind. The consequences of these failures are now hitting the workforce. We aren't just talking about abstract stock numbers anymore. We are talking about people's livelihoods. Recently, Intel announced massive layoffs, cutting 15% of its global workforce. That is over 15,000 talented engineers, technicians, and support staff losing their jobs. The company suspended its dividend, something that was once considered sacred to investors. They are slashing costs, pausing construction on new factories, and desperately trying to stop the bleeding. The internal culture, once driven by engineering excellence, became bogged down by bureaucracy and financial engineering. They spent years buying back their own stock to boost share prices instead of investing in R&D to fix their broken factories. It is a classic case of short-term thinking, destroying long-term value. Now, the company is in a fight for survival that involves the United States government. Intel has become too big to fail, but for a different reason. National security. With tensions rising between the US and China, the American government is terrified that all the world's advanced chips are made in Taiwan, an island that is a geopolitical flashpoint. The US needs a domestic chip maker. They need Intel to succeed. This is why the government is pouring billions of dollars into Intel through the CHIPS Act. It's a bailout disguised as an investment. They are effectively paying Intel to build factories in Ohio and Arizona, hoping that the company can figure out how to make cutting-edge chips again. But money alone can't fix a broken culture. You can buy equipment, you can build buildings, but you cannot buy the vision that Paul Otellini and Bob Swan lacked. The question everyone is asking is, can they turn it around? Current CEO Pat Gelsinger is trying to pull off the greatest comeback in tech history. He wants to open up Intel's factories to other companies, effectively becoming a rival to TSMC. He wants to catch up on manufacturing technology in 4 years, a pace that many experts say is impossible. The stakes couldn't be higher. If Intel fails, the US loses its ability to produce advanced silicon, and the company that built Silicon Valley will be carved up and sold for parts. If they succeed, it will be a miracle. But right now, looking at the missed iPhone deal, the missed OpenAI investment, and the dominance of Nvidia, the road ahead looks incredibly steep. The tragedy of Intel isn't that they weren't smart enough. It's that they were too comfortable to see the cliff edge until they had already driven off it.